6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lakshman Fonseca and read by Geethanjali Ramanayaka. The headlines. Sri Lanka's biggest water supply scheme, Visal Mathale Water Supply Scheme, vested with the public. The Ministry of Finance plans a special program to identify and promote investment opportunities. Save the Children assist Health Ministry to help combat COVID-19. The much-awaited AstraZeneca vaccine arrived in Sri Lanka this Saturday. Sri Lanka levels the 3-match T20 with India. In news from overseas, the UK government says no quarantine for fully jabbed US and EU travellers. Local news in detail. Sri Lanka's biggest water supply scheme, Visal Mathale Water Supply Scheme, was vested with the people yesterday under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. 31,000 million rupees have been spent on the scheme, which can provide 90,000 new water connections. More than 350,000 families will be benefited from the project. People in Mathale, Rattota, Yatavatta, Ukuela, Pallepola, Ambanganga, Korale and Naula will be benefited through the scheme. Accordingly, clean drinking water coverage in Mathale will increase from 30 to 90%. Laggala and Vilkamua scheme are being constructed under this scheme. Save the Children presents a consignment of oxygen therapy equipment and personal protective equipment to Ministry of Health to help combat the COVID-19 global pandemic. Save the Children, working for over 100 years as the pre-eminent voice for children with governments, civil society and private sector partners in 120 countries worldwide. Save the Children Sri Lanka extended its support to the Ministry of Health to strengthen their commendable response to the pandemic in Sri Lanka. Further to a request made by the Ministry of Health on urgent support with medical equipment for strengthening COVID treatment facilities, Save the Children made this donation. It was worth over 18 million Sri Lanka rupees. The ceremonious handover of the above was held yesterday at the Ministry of Health by Save the Children's National Director, Mr. Julian Shalappa, and other distinctive guests. Secretary to the Ministry, Major General Dr. Anil Munasinghe, Additional Secretary, Public Health Services, Dr. TLC Somatunga were also present at the event. State Minister Channa Jayasumana says a stock of 728,460 doses of the much-awaited AstraZeneca vaccine will arrive in Sri Lanka this Saturday. He said these vaccines will arrive through the WHO's COVAX facility. Priority will be given to administer the second dose to the 490,000 people who have received AstraZeneca as their first dose, he added. The doses will arrive from Japan through the COVAX facility. This is out of the 1.4 million doses pledged by Japan last month. The remaining doses will arrive in August. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Sri Lanka will become the first country committed to organic agricultural practice completely. Chairman of the Organic Farmers Association of Sri Lanka, Tilak Karevasam says, whole world is now confident that the country will achieve the goal shortly. He added that the concept of organic agriculture was first initiated before 1940s and now there's a good demand for all organic agricultural products throughout the world. He says farmers in Sri Lanka were fully committed to environmental friendly farming procedures associated with organic methods in the history and it is inherited to Sri Lankan farmers. Some provinces in Indonesia involved in 100% organic agricultural practices since 2017 and government of Bhutan has also taken measures to announce complete organic agricultural practices by the year 2030, he added. Water supply to Benthra, Alutgama, Darga Town and Kaluamodra will be interrupted for 12 hours from 8 a.m. today. National Water Supply and Drainage Board says that the interruption is due to an essential development work at Alutgama, Matugama, Agalavatta Integrated Water Supply Project. And that ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
In the main news story, the Ministry of Finance says a formal integrated approach will be developed to identify and promote investment opportunities. A special discussion on the preparation of this program was held yesterday at the Ministry of Finance under the patronage of the Minister of Finance, Basil Rajapaksa. This will be implemented in nationally focused sectors such as fisheries and pharmaceuticals, as well as various areas that can attract investment opportunities. The ministry will take immediate measures to identify these areas quickly, and the environment will soon be created for the implementation of the projects. Discussions are also held on expanding the facilities provided to investors by developing an inter-coordination program between the relevant government agencies to enable them to perform their services more efficiently. State Minister Ajit Nimad Cabral, Secretary to the Ministry of Finance S.R. Artigala, and a delegation from the investment sector also participated in the meeting. And on to Watchlight. Police has provided a telephone number for the general public to report information regarding any activities related to child labour in Colombo and other suburbs. Police spokesman Senior DIG Ajit Rohana says special operation was initiated in the Colombo city and suburbs areas in the western province to nab offenders. He added that if the public have any information in respect of child labour, they are requested to provide such information to the Colombo Emergency Centre via its telephone number 0112 433 333. And that came to you in Watchlight. And moving on to a bulletin of world news. In the headlines, the UK government says no quarantine for fully jabbed US and EU travellers. Human Rights Watch stresses countries should bring citizens home and ensure due process for ISIS suspects held in Syria. UN says millions of children are out of school, increasing their vulnerability to violence and mental stress. World news in detail now. People who have been fully vaccinated in the EU or US will not need to isolate when coming to England and Scotland from an amber list country. Currently, only people who receive their immunisations in the UK can avoid quarantine when arriving from amber list countries except France. The UK government said the rule change would help to reunite family and friends whose loved ones live abroad. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said it would apply to people who have been fully vaccinated with a jab approved by the EU or the US. Travellers will still need to take either a lateral flow or PCR test pre-departure and a PCR test on the second day after they arrive. Nearly 43,000 foreign men, women and children linked to ISIS remain detained in inhuman conditions by regional authorities in northeast Syria. Human Rights Watch says it is now 2 years after they were rounded up during the fall of the Islamic State Caliphate. Thousands of ISIS wives with their children still face the challenges of living in Al-Hol and Roy Syrian refugee camps. The largest Al-Hol camp is located in northeastern Syria, and it hosts crowds of women and children who travel thousands of miles away from their homes. Al-Hol camp was first established during the Second Gulf War in the 1990s, built to receive a maximum of 20,000 people. But the camp hosts today over 60,000 individuals, most of whom are displaced Syrians and Iraqi refugees. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres stresses priority for children's mental well-being during the pandemic. He urges governments to take preventive approach of mental well-being through healthy social protection for children, as many of them are out of school. In a meeting co-organized with the Permanent Mission of Belgium to the United Nations recently, he added mental health and psychosocial support together with the community-based approaches to care are integral to universal health coverage for children and families. The meeting contributed to raising awareness of the impact of violence on the mental health of children both before and during the COVID-19 pandemic. UN urged authorities everywhere to take the views and lived experiences of children themselves exposed to increasing threats. He requests the government to make the atmosphere where all children live free from violence with the highest standard of mental health. Back to the headlines of the world news. The UK government says no quarantine for fully jabbed US and EU travellers. Human Rights Watch stresses countries should bring citizens home and ensure due process for ISIS suspects held in Syria. UN says millions of children are out of school, increasing their vulnerability to violence and mental stress. And that ends World News.
Development News is brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin pellets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
In development news, expression of interest has been called to be a tenant at the Sri Lanka Institute of Biotechnology Innovation Park to develop and manufacture high-tech biotech products for export and local markets. Sri Lanka Institute of Biotechnology was incorporated under the Ministry of Technology and State Ministry of Digital Technology and Entrepreneur Development with the objective of promoting biotech industry in Sri Lanka and to support the development of biotech industries.
Development News was brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin pellets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
In sports news, Sri Lanka levelled the three-match T20 international series 1-1 when they edged out India by 4 wickets in the second encounter played at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo yesterday. Dhananjay De Silva hauled in the innings together with 40 not out of 34 balls. He hit the winning run with just 2 balls to spare and with Sri Lanka down to their last serious batting pair. And the man of the match, Dhananjay De Silva. Meanwhile, a disciplinary inquiry will be conducted today by the 5-member committee headed by retired Supreme Court Judge Nimal Disanayake into the alleged misconduct of 3 Sri Lankan cricketers, Kusal Mendis, Niroshan Dikwala and Dhanushka Gunathilaka, during the recent tour to England. 3 cricketers had violated bio-secular quarantine regulations in Durham and were suspended from all forms of cricket by Sri Lanka Cricket until the completion of the inquiry and were flown home midway during the tour. And that was Sports News.
Contributory deposit of ₹1,000 from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
The John Keells Group recorded strong performance despite the impact of leisure and third wave. The group's businesses, except for consumer foods, recorded an improvement in profitability compared to the first quarter of the previous year. John Keells says since the easing of the restrictions from early July 2021, barring inter-provincial travel for non-essential services, business activity has been a strong recovery to near normal levels.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of ₹1,000 from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news, courtesy of Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The Sri Lanka Export Development Board announces the formulation of a vocational education training plan for the electrical and electronic sector. EDB says it will pave the way for further development in the country's electrical and electronic industry. The plan, which will be implemented in the next 5 years, aims to improve the supply of semi-skilled and skilled professionals to satisfy the needs of the electronics and electrical manufacturing sector. At present, the sector mainly caters for the automobiles, telecommunication, consumer electronics, industrial automation and medical sectors.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
The Department of Meteorology predicts several spells of showers in Sabragamuwa province and in Nuwara district. A few showers will occur in the western and northwestern provinces and in the Galle, Matra, Kandy and Matre districts. Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Uva province and in Ampara and Batiklo districts in the evening or at night. Fairly strong winds can be expected in the western slope of Central Hills, North Central and Northwestern provinces and in Hambantota district.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
Back to the headlines. Sri Lanka's biggest water supply scheme, Visal Matale Water Supply Scheme, vested with the public. The Ministry of Finance plans a special program to identify and promote investment opportunities. Save the Children assists Health Ministry to help combat COVID-19. The much-awaited AstraZeneca vaccines arrive in Sri Lanka this Saturday. Sri Lanka levels the 3-match T20 with India. News from overseas, the UK government says no quarantine for fully jabbed US and EU travellers. And with that, we end this news broadcast.